industry. And today, I think that it's really a very popular person that people are also wanting to to hear Percy's story. So we've got a lot of people joining in, and we thank you also for taking time and showing the interest in this platform as well, where we're sharing people's people's careers in our personal care industry. So just a few practical things for today, rules for today. Questions will be at the end. So we'll give Percy some time to go through his presentation. Then we'll give an opportunity to present questions towards the end. And I'm sure that there will be a lot. You can also just post it in the chat box. And then Bridget and myself can have a look at that and just call it out, when Percy is finished. And then the session is also recorded. Just for your information. And then yes, then I want to introduce our guest speaker today, which is Percy Sabanda. And Percy, we want to thank you for being willing to share your career and the journey that you followed with our industry. So we look forward to hearing your background, hearing how you ended up where you are. So for those of you who don't know, Percy currently is the Scientific and Regulatory Affairs Advisor at L'Oreal, and that's for the Sub-Saharan region. So we still have, Bridget, I think a lot of people joining in, but Percy, I'm going to hand over, and thank you. We look forward to hearing your story.
Percy, you are on mute.
Thanks, Bridget. Can you now hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. I didn't want you to get too far along your journey in the darkness.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You would. I often say when this happens, you would think after almost 3 or so years of using these online platforms for meeting, we would have gotten to a point where
no.
you can tell when you're muted. Thank you very much, Marcel, for the introduction. I didn't know that I was popular. Maybe I should hire a manager and establish a fan club in the in the industry. But when you get asked to do one of these, it's always firstly a humbling experience to look at it, and then sometimes for some of us, you ask yourself, am I now that old? Am I now part of the ancestry of the industry to be called upon to do one of these? And then you start looking for gray hairs and see if you've got any. And see if any of the coloring products from the industry that you're using are actually working. So I'm going to try and share my story in a very sort of interesting way that I thought of sharing with everyone, but largely, of course, the focus is on people that are looking to enter into the industry, our students that need that glimpse into what they actually can do in the industry. So as practitioners in the beauty industry, we often ask ourselves, or because we've become so accustomed to everything that is happening in the industry, the personalities, the people, because our industry right now, it's still that small that you can be aware of and know everyone in it, as well as all the players in it. So for an outsider, what is there to think about if they want a career in beauty? From an outsider looking in, there's so much to see. It's obviously the glamorous adverts that you see on TV, the beautiful models or the muses that we use to advertise our products, the interesting science that we're always advertising that we use to come up with our products. Of course, there are sometimes other matters that arise in the media in respect to the industry that other people deal with. So there are many careers in the cosmetic industry. It's quite a diverse industry in terms of gender diversity, in terms of racial diversity. It's changing, it's evolving, and becoming more and more touching all of the South African population, and everybody in it can feel represented within our industry. So I distilled the shape that beauty careers can take. Of course, they can take many varied forms, depending on who the individual is and where their entry point is and what their entry focus was. So I've distilled the shape that beauty careers can take in the cosmetic industry into about 4 main distinct groups, although they can be iterations or mixtures or hybrids of these. So you can have an entrepreneurial career where either you buy equity into an established business and become an owner or a part owner, or you can start your own business from scratch. I think we've already had speakers in this series that have done this. Or you can have what I like to call a hybrid career, where you start off as an employee and you learn a few things, and then somewhere along the line you gain confidence, and then you start your own business and become an entrepreneur. So your career to that point would have been hybrid. And then you can have what I like to call an inverted career, where you can start off as an entrepreneur, and then somebody comes in, expresses an interest in your business, and then they buy it from you. And then at that point, you can either sell the business and stay on as an employee, or you can sell the business and leave completely. We have seen so many other examples of this type of career. Or you can also have an entirely corporate career, where you work for various organizations in various capacities in a sort of corporate structure, where you grow, you get promoted, or you leave companies and you join other companies in higher, more senior positions as your career develops. So my career has up to now mostly been entirely corporate in different capacities in various organizations. So who am I? That is how I look like. I'm sure since Marcel said I'm very popular, people know how I look like. Um, that is my name. You already know this. In terms of interests, I like to travel. A lot of colleagues in the industry believe that I spend more time on holiday than I do working. Appearances can be deceiving. I do battle down and work very, very hard in order for me to be able to enjoy my passion of traveling. I also like a bit of gardening. And then Bridget finds this funny that I collect liquor because I don't drink, but I do. Largely, my excuse is I do it for my guests that come and visit me at home, so that they don't get bored when they visit the house of a teetotaler. Also, I believe in a secondary life. If I wasn't in the beauty industry, I would be a brewer. And I see a lot of microbreweries are coming up in the country, and I'm thinking, if at some point I get bored with the beauty industry, I might actually venture into brewing. It might be an interesting distraction. I also like cooking. I also like watching sports, reading, writing, and a bit of TV. As you will see later in the presentation, I do derive a lot of my references from TV. My passions are science and law, with a particular focus on ethical innovation, because I do believe, especially these days with things like AI, etc., that are moving at a very, very, very rapid rate in terms of innovating and intruding into people's lives. Ethical innovation is becoming key in terms of whether science becomes good or detrimental to mankind. I like highlighting what I call a superpower. Whereas I have a great photographic memory. If I see something, I probably remember it in very great detail from the average person. I think a lot of it is born from having to work on documents a lot of the time. So you have to have a lot of memory of pages that you have actually seen. And then in terms of academics, I hold an honors degree in applied chemistry, which led me to the beauty industry. And then whilst in the beauty industry, I realized, and once I started working in regulatory affairs, that I need to understand the law, and I need to understand how it works, and I need to understand how it affects business, so that I can be a better advisor to business. So I studied commercial law. So I have a bachelor's in commercial law, and then I also have the diploma in cosmetic science that the Society of Cosmetic Chemists of South Africa offers on an annual basis to new prospective students. So what led me to the beauty industry? It's nothing glamorous. It's nothing fancy. It's not a very philosophical story. It was nothing more than just a clerical error. Let me tell you the story. So after I finished my honors, my idea was to go study for my master's in chemical engineering at Wits. But when I applied for my master's, there was a clerical error, and the application processing was delayed. In my grand life plan, I just saw myself doing my master's and then converting into a PhD, and then I was going to work at Sasol, because I think ever since I had encountered science, Sasol was always a company that I saw on TV, on adverts and all of that. Those molecules running around in a circle in the corner were always an inspiration. I always thought I would work at Sasol, and now that I look at how things have unfolded, the universe was probably laughing at me having all these grand plans about working at Sasol. So whilst I was waiting for WITS to sort itself out administratively, STK agencies offered me a position in their lab. So I said, okay. And I have never left the beauty industry. Straight out of varsity, I went into the beauty industry, and that's where I have been ever since I left school. Okay, where have I worked so far? I've worked in various capacities. I've worked in a lab environment. I've worked in a production environment. I've worked in corporate sort of settings and environments. So initially, like I've just said, STK was the first to offer me my first position, where I worked principally in quality control. And then obviously, because quality touches everything, I would work with the production guys. I would work with product development, as well on various projects that they were doing. So SDK was sort of my initiation into the cosmetic industry. I think after 2.5 years, I got another opportunity to move to CTFA, which is the industry association. This is where I think I got my thorough education of the cosmetic industry. When I worked with Jill and Pam and Sally and everybody at CTFA, where I started interacting with member companies and understanding the broader size of the cosmetic industry, the different needs that different companies had in respect to regulation and cosmetic self-regulation, also standardization and all those kinds of things, and how they impact the industry, because up to now the industry is still self-regulated, and how that whole structure of self-regulation works, and how we keep it up to date, and how we align it with the EU, all those things, and all those industry affairs, all those topics that come up, all those sort of crisis situations that come up in respect to the industry, or consumers having issues with certain products, or certain safety aspects that relate to products coming up in the public space. So all of that was an education that I got for almost 3 years when I was at CTFA in the technical team. It was a very interesting time in my life, and like I said, I feel this was where I got the proper full education of what the cosmetic industry in South Africa actually entails, because you get the complete picture of who's who and what who is doing and all of that. And then after 3 years at CTFA, I then moved to L'Oreal, where I joined the scientific and regulatory affairs team. L'Oreal was a different beast. It's a world leader in beauty. It's a corporate environment, and there's a lot more happening that you advise on from a scientific and regulatory affairs standpoint. There's product advertising. There's other things that you're probably going to see later on as I present. And there's also obviously getting involved in industry affairs, because as an active player in the industry, L'Oreal is very passionate about participating and making sure that our voice, our thinking, and our latest research is shared with the industry, where of course proprietary concerns are not violated, etc. And we also participate actively in making sure that the industry is responsible, and it moves forward, and it makes sure that the products that we put out there are good for consumer safety. So a bit of what I do in collaboration with almost 80,000 colleagues worldwide, 500 of them, about 600 of them are based in South Africa. So if this works with me, I'll share with you guys what I currently get involved in with my colleagues worldwide.
There's no audio on the video. Is that correct?
There's no audio.
No. When you do the sharing, you do need to say that connect with the computer audio. I don't know
Okay.
if. Sorry.
I had shared with computer
Computer audio.
Okay, let me
try again.
let me reshare.
Sorry.
Okay.
So you have to be an IT person now as well,
All right. Okay. Let's see if it will work now.
There we go.
Working?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. So, in a nutshell, that is basically what we stand for at L'Oreal. That is basically what we're involved in. I always tell colleagues in the industry that if there's one thing that I've learned from L'Oreal in the 10 years that I've been with them, it is to package information and make it fun and fascinating, because we have such talented people here that do it so well. I hope you enjoyed that video summary of what we do at L'Oreal with my colleagues here in South Africa, as well as worldwide. So my current role, as Marcel has said, is Scientific and Regulatory Affairs Advisor. The scope of my role is mainly regulatory intelligence, assessing the impact of regulatory evolutions, policies, and obviously defending certain positions that, the L'Oreal Group holds in respect to ingredients or certain policy matters, engaging with government and other stakeholders, ensuring that our advertising is compliant, as well as working with our research and innovation team to develop and test claims. We also advise business and research and innovation on, their innovation paths and what they might actually be wanting to do. So what we then do is assess the external environment in terms of regulation and compliance, and whether, those innovations can fit into the current market, either on a local scale, or if it's a worldwide rollout, we also contribute to the global development of the compliance mapping of a future launch. The critical skills that you need to operate in a scientific and regulatory affairs space is science, law, and what I like to call a good dose of good judgment. Of course, this is acquired over time. I've done regulatory affairs for 13 years. So over time, you learn and you experience things and you see things, and then you establish this good judgment to actually rationalize situations and be able to determine that, this might come to pass, this might not come to pass. It's not an exact science. Sometimes you do get things wrong. You assess things and the facts show you something, and then the reality becomes something else. It's almost like a job as a weatherman. You can get the weather completely wrong, and tomorrow you will still pitch for work, and people will still value the advice that you that you actually give. But it 9 times out of 10 we do get things right. The 1 time out of 10 that we don't get things right, we are normally forgiven. So when I saw the parts that said, what challenges have you faced and learned from, I looked at it from a very universal point to say, I've had quite a long and fruitful career in the industry thus far. So, there's things that I've learned and things that I've seen that I can share. I think rejection is very important. It's an important experience to go through. Hearing a no or being declined for something, it might hurt, especially if you've invested a lot of your time, your passion into wanting that thing. But what's more important for me, or as I've grown in the industry, is to realize what you do with the rejection, sorry. Because first of all, in a positive sense, that no, I often look at it as an acronym to say, it's the beginning of your next opportunity, so you must make haste, and if that door that you were knocking on didn't open, it means that it wasn't your door. You must continue on your journey to look for your door. So you will be rejected on so many aspects, in life, in general. In a work setting, you might apply for a promotion, for a job or a position, or you might present an idea. Maybe that audience that you're presenting the idea to might not be ready to receive the idea, and they will reject it. So you have to learn to accept and deal with rejection. To mourn a rejection is important. To accept, that you invested emotion and passion into this and then it didn't work out is important. But to move on from it and still manage to grow from the experience and make haste and embrace your next opportunities is an important lesson. I think individual acceptance of yourself as a person is also very, very, very important. We operate in an industry that has got many, many varied personalities. I've had the joy of interacting with so many people on the various platforms that are participating in the industry, and one stark lesson. Everyone believes that but I'm a good person, but I'm this, but I'm that. But at the end of the day, you have to accept that even if you're the happiest and most jovial person, you will annoy someone by that disposition. So, you know, you have to accept that you will not be everyone's cup of tea, and that is okay. You know, if you know that you are good with yourself and you are true to who you are, it frees you, you know, from the prison that is created by others' opinions about you. Because trust me, people will have opinions about you, come rain, come sunshine, and they change as the seasons change and as they interact with you. Someone who has never interacted with me closely might have an opinion about me from externally, but then when I do let them in and they come in and they realize who I am, that opinion about them must change. What remains consistent in that whole situation is me. So to myself, I have to remain true, and also you yourself to yourself remain true to who you are and navigate yourself in this industry. You're going to need that in this industry, especially if you take the path that I've followed, that requires a lot of social interaction with colleagues, a lot of disagreement, and a lot of sharing of very strong positions with other colleagues that might not necessarily disagree. Sorry, that might not necessarily agree with what you might actually put on there. You must also trust, you know, your process. You know, sometimes we look at where we are in our career and you are always saying, I could have done this, I could have done that, it could have gone this way, it could have done that way. I always say trust your process. You know the choices that you've made have led you to exactly where you are today. And if you look at it broadly, you are doing okay. You have to trust your judgment and your intuition. But of course, all of us have biases and blind spots, and we must be wary of those. To say I tend to bias towards this when I make decisions. I tend to overlook these things when I make decisions. So you have to work on your biases and your blind spots and make sure that, you know, you think big and you trust yourself and you make it happen irrespective of the situation. We also work in a very fast moving consumer goods space. Like sometimes trends don't even last a year in cosmetics. So you constantly have to change. You constantly have to adapt. You know, the business puts pressures on us as scientific people. They expect, sometimes I call them miracles, to say, oh yeah, they will brief something into you today and they expect a response tomorrow, and you tell them no, doesn't work that way, sorry. But you have to be adaptable to those high pressure situations. You know, be like a seed, thrive wherever you're planted. You know, there are no limitations. People can think that they are boxing you or they are limiting what you can do. My experience has been that any limitation you can turn it into an opportunity. Like for example, I can tell you, jokingly, if you box me and you say you are good at this, trust me, by the end of that whole time that you've boxed me, you will know exactly the box that I reside in, the address, the street number, and everything, because I will make that box work for me, you know. So do not ever succumb to limitations. Always view them as opportunities, and you can adapt and grow from any limitation or an opportunity in equal measure. So use those. You always have to be agile. Learning new things, I think, has kept me going in the industry. As you saw, I upskilled myself to be skilled in a scientific field as well as a legal field, and being able to converge these skills successfully is sort of becoming the way of the future. If you are up to it and you've got time, lifelong learning is indeed a superpower. Right now I'm dabbling in coding because, you know, being at L'Oreal, I'm seeing that it's becoming a beauty tech company, so maybe I might need to have some exposure to tech. So I've done a bit of coding in Python. So you never stop learning. So I've had a very enriching career. So a few highlights that I can share in terms of what has happened. I've collaborated mainly with Pharmaceutical and Cosmetic Review to publish a few articles on regulatory matters, policy matters that might be of interest to the industry. I've represented South Africa on international platforms for standardization, as well as other cosmetic related matters where, you know, we present the South African position on task forces, etc. And then I also am part of the education committee for Coschem. I was at the Coschem day the other day, and the number of people that were coming up to me and say, "Oh yes, I was a student of Percy's," and I was like, "Oh my word, I'm old. I'm old." So this for me, transfer of knowledge is something that I'm very passionate about, and our industry is all about learning on the job. So, sharing in my experiences with students. Every year is different in terms of how I teach the modules that I teach. That's how I contribute to the industry as an educator. I also participate in a lot of industry working groups on various platforms, be it CTFA, be it Coschem. And I also sit on the executive committee of the Aerosol Manufacturers Association, as well as many other scientific and technical committees on various platforms. I'm also passionate about nanotechnology and how it's applied in our industry, and I participate on the working group at SABS on it. And I'm also very passionate about chemicals management and the policies that go with that, so that we don't harm our environment, we don't harm human life and animal and plant life as well. So I participate on the multiple stakeholder committee that is managed by the Department of Environmental Affairs. So what advice do I want to share based on my experiences in the cosmetic industry? I think being consistent is underrated, but is key. Especially in your messaging as a person. We live in a very perceptive society. People are constantly watching you, how you carry yourself, how you speak, etc. But if you are consistent in your messaging as a person, people tend to warm up to you. People tend to be aware of who you are, what you're going to stand for and what you're not going to stand for, and that's very important in setting up boundaries, even in a professional sense. But overall, consistency, discipline, and knowledge, they will always trump talent and inconsistency in the long run. And you must always be open to learning new things. You know, I used to like this guy on Game of Thrones. His name was Varys. He always seemed to know what was going on, even if in spaces where he wasn't even there. He said that influence grows like a weed, and I added that if you tend to it, before you know it, its tentacles reach rooms where you're not even present, but you're acknowledged in those rooms. And in this world that we currently live in, that is very perceptive. That is very important to not be in a room, but for your name to be mentioned in those rooms where influential people are, or influential decisions are actually being made. It's a very important trait or attribute to have. Also, what I've seen in terms of the industry, the relationships that I've built professionally with people, they've fostered very deep connections. There are people that I'm still connected to that I worked with when I started at SDK. They've integrated into being more than just professional colleagues. Now they're lifelong friends. We check in on each other. Same with people that I've worked with at CTFA. Same with people that I've worked with at L'Oreal that are still here, even at L'Oreal, that have, or even some that have left L'Oreal. We are still connected in life. So those relationships, professional relationships, are stronger and more sustainable than just having networks and saying, oh yeah, I've networked with so and so, I've spoken to so and so, I know them. Having actual professional relationships helps. Even when you're in a crisis situation professionally, you can always reach out to people and they can give you sound advice, or even look out for you in terms of future opportunities for growth, etc., etc. Once you have a network, it literally takes a village to help you thrive in the industry. So you must always build sound relationships. Also, what I've seen is, even if you are young, because I've been the young person in the room who has been listening to the established order of things, how things, oh, it's been done like this, it's been done like that, and then you're always like, but can't we do it in another way? Can't we do it in a better way? You know, I've learned that sometimes you do need to speak your mind, but you do need to do it within a framework of ethics and respect. You don't have to be disrespectful for you to be heard. You know, you do need to breathe life into ideas, especially for young people who might be intimidated in rooms where there might be older, more experienced people. Sometimes you have to let your ideas be shot down for you to test and to learn from them, because if you don't do that, you will not grow. So if you put your ideas across and then they're shot down, and the reasons that are given for them not being taken up will teach you to be, you know, a better creator of ideas. So never ever be afraid to speak your mind within a framework of ethics and respect, and also to have ideas that are contrary to the established order. What I've learned with the cosmetic industry, and especially at L'Oreal, which is a very entrepreneurial environment, is that there is no one way of doing things. Your way of thinking could become the new way of doing things, and then 3 years later somebody could come with a better idea, which becomes the new way of doing things. So you must always open your ideation to evolution. And then integrity is important. You can be anything. You can be educated, you can be rich, you can be talented. Depends on who and how you perceive yourself to be, but how you treat people is always telling. People never forget how you make them feel. That's an important thing. People will never ever forget how you make them feel. If you radiate warmth and you're always warm to people, they never forget that. If you react a certain way to people, they will always remind you that, you know, the first time I met you, this is what happened, and this is what happened. You're like, oh no, I'm so sorry you felt that way. I've learned that whenever I meet somebody for the first time, I've always put in extra effort to make them feel comfortable, feel at ease, so that they have a lasting impression of how I made them feel. Also, do not be afraid to collaborate. You know, work with others, play with other children. You know, we are social creatures. Having your ideas challenged and somebody disagreeing with them in a healthy fashion refines them, and it makes you a sharper ideator, if there's a word like that. For me, who works in a space where our main currency is giving opinions and giving assessments and all of that, this is very important, because you can always think that, you know, I've ideated the best opinion in respect to this, and then somebody can come with just a single statement and challenge the entirety of that opinion. So you should always say to your collaborators, this is what I'm thinking, what do you guys think? Welcome other people's ideas. When you combine your ideas with those of others, the outcomes are always great when you collaborate. And I think most importantly for me, and I think I've experienced this in all the environments that I've worked in, you know, that you must never ever forget to have fun, even at work. Once you have those deep relationships that you form with your colleagues, it becomes fun. Working at work, you know, if work stops being fun, it's like Richard Branson says, you know, you can't always wake up every day stressed and miserable. It's not a good way to live life. Always try and have fun at work. Sometimes it's difficult, yes, because we have to be real. Toxic work environments are real, but like I said, any limitation can be turned into an opportunity. In any space, I promise you, you can always find your crowd. You can always find your people, be it the lab crew, be it the marketing guys. You will always get along with a certain bunch of people, and they will help you to rediscover that spark, and you will have that fun at work. Always have fun. I feel like if you're having fun at work, you will do your best work. And then I think this is for the benefit of the university students, you know, sort of just sharing pathways into which you can get into the beauty industry. This is a L'Oreal video, but I'm sure a lot of corporates do have similar programs. So here goes.
Hi there. Are you wondering what the opportunities for young talent and early careers are at L'Oreal? Well, you've come to the right place. My name is Alex, and I work in the L'Oreal Talent Acquisition team. I'll show you what you can hope to find in all the countries we are operating in. Ready to hear about our internships, e-internships, graduate programs, VIE, apprenticeships, and more? Cool, there's a lot going on, so let's begin. Let's start with internships. Internships are the best way to jump into the L'Oreal adventure and explore the reality of a job that is specifically designed for an undergraduate or graduate student. Honestly, it's the best way to discover L'Oreal from the inside. So, what's great about internships at L'Oreal? Well, I'll tell you. You get a foot inside the door with the global beauty leader, a fast growth and development to help you shape your career, an opportunity that helps you connect with our recruiters and managers for your next career steps, and a great way to test if your specialization is what you want to continue with long term. In a nutshell, internships at L'Oreal are about being able to test and learn, discover, get curious, explore, be dynamic, grow, and of course, be entrepreneurial. Oh, then there's the e-internship. It has all the same benefits of traditional internships, but you can experience it beyond boundaries in a flexible and innovative remote work setting. We know how important that is in this current climate. So, what's so great about this one, I hear you say? Well, on top of accessing all of the fantastic benefits I mentioned about the internship, with an e-internship, there is also the fact that, first, we're open to students who can't relocate and aren't based near a L'Oreal office or even in the same city. 2, you can focus on your impactful and purposeful projects while benefiting from social activities and connecting with new people every day, just remotely. The e-internship is all about developing, networking, and finding new ways of working, so you can have an impact and grow from wherever you are. There's a lot happening here. Now, maybe you're not available for an internship because you're further along in your studies or you've already graduated. No worries, we have a graduate scheme called the Management Trainee Program. We think of everything. I'm sure you can guess what I'm going to tell you next. What's great about our management trainee program? Although watch out, as in some countries we call it the graduate program, just to keep you on your toes. Well, for starters, we focus on unleashing your full potential and boosting your career with an accelerated and personalized experience. And secondly, most of the programs include rotations in different positions, functions, divisions, and even countries. Lots of expertise to learn in a short amount of time, which will all help you kickstart your career. This is for those ambitious job seekers looking for a first opportunity that will take you to new levels and new experiences. So if you're curious and open to learn about all different sides of the business, this is for you. Our graduate or management trainee programs are about fast development, true challenges, agility and exposure, adventure and acquiring strategy, vision, leadership expertise, all at the same time. What about discovering a new country? L'Oreal is big and supports VIE programs for curious Europeans under 28 years old looking for an international adventure. So, the all-important question, what makes a VIE at L'Oreal great? Firstly, you can push your own boundaries by launching your professional experience beyond borders. Secondly, you'll discover a new culture and ways of working and see if you're ready to start your career abroad. Plus, we'll sponsor your visa. To sum up, it's about discovering local business, cross-cultural environments, and growing through diversity. If you're adventurous, go for it. This video is starting to be too long. They're going to cut me. So let me tell you quickly about other opportunities. Many countries also offer apprenticeships for students who want to develop professionally part-time while still studying. So if you love efficiency and want to accelerate your career by learning on the job while still at school, this one is for you. Oh, and we also have an international innovation competition called L'Oreal Brandstorm. This is the most iconic and fun way to create your own team and learn about a business challenge, and we'll also coach you. It's all by L'Oreal for everyone under 30 years old. So I hope this helped you understand more about what opportunity could be right for you. For more information, you can go to our careers website, careers.l'oreal.com. Check our other videos on our YouTube channel to coach you through your recruitment process. Ask your questions in the comments section, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. See you soon, hopefully. Good luck.
Okay. So that is me. Thank you very much for taking time to listen to my story. I welcome any questions or comments, because I can't see the chat right now.
Yeah, thanks, Percy. And you can see the hand claps. So our audience Yeah, we're very intrigued. I want to say, so you mentioned your popularity. We had a record number of 111 people in our audience today. So
Oh,
I think
wow.
just a lot of people, were really wanting to hear, how you ended up where you are. So thank you also for sharing that. I can also say I was also a student of Percy not so long ago, and yeah, I'm joining the crowd. And then Percy, I want to say as well, we're very happy that we haven't lost you to Sasol and also not yet to the brewing industry. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this today. It was really interesting. It is also inspiring, to especially when you looked at the challenges that you have faced and how to overcome all of those. I made a note here of the no reference that you used, to never look at it as a no, but to look at it as the next opportunity. So that's really great. Thank you so much for the inspiration today. So I can see the chat. I want to go to the first question maybe. So there's Dear Percy, I've already been an intern at L'Oreal. Do you know if one can apply again?
Ooh, that is a very, very HR position
Question, yes.
question. Um, I'm not sure if you can apply for the internship again. You probably can apply for any of the available positions, and also because when we engage interns, we do sort of enter into an agreement where we keep their personal information in case certain opportunities come up within the business, and then you can be contacted to if you would consider filling the position. But I'm not 100% sure that if you've been considered for an internship before, you will not be considered for another internship. But of course, my colleagues in HR would be best placed to give you the more precise and exact answer on that.
Thank you. Prashani, I see that your hand is up.
Hi,
Do you wanna-
Percy. Yes, I do want to ask a question quickly. I just want to know, I recently started a regulatory and compliance position, so I have a regulatory and QA role, and I just want to know, like, how does one build a regulatory intelligence? Like, besides focusing on the PIPs, how else do I better support this role, from a regulatory intelligence aspect?
Okay. The best way you can do that. In fact, there's multiple ways. The internet must become your friend. You must read anything and everything to gain a regulatory intelligence background. I read even the news. I read on so many things like trade bulletins. I follow various government departments that do not even have anything to do with cosmetics, because you would be amazed at the things that are happening at a government level that actually affect cosmetics, but your normal scientist would not be aware of. Another thing is you need to establish a very, very broad network, both locally and internationally. I am fortunate in that I work for an international company, so I also tap into my international network that always helps me to forecast what might be coming down the line based on what is happening in the EU, what might be happening in the US, or even in Asia. That might actually be happening. So having an extensive network as well as being willing to read extensively, because I always tell people every Friday I get excited when the law reports come out, and then I go through them with a fine-tooth comb in terms of the judgments, in terms of what has happened. Sometimes you might get in there and there's a case on advertising law. We are advertisers, so my interest peaks on that, and then I read through the case, and then I gain knowledge on that. And then when the government gazette also comes out every Friday, you have to check and see that nothing's happened that is going to impact the business in a negative way. There is a wealth of information out there on the internet. You just need to know where to go and it all depends on the nature of the business that you're servicing in terms of the amount of knowledge that they need. It will always expand your scope. If it's limited to South Africa, then you have to look at South African interests, and then if it's sub-Saharan interest, you have to also look at what the governments of other countries are doing, and that's how you build your regulatory intelligence base. And then from then on, you now then learn to assess the impact, apply that to what L'Oreal has done for me, packaging information, and making it sellable and more palatable to business people, so that they can use it in their decision making. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yes, it does. It was very informative. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, a
thank you.
lot of aspects for me to look at now. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Okay, next, Percy, I see Gareth's hand is also up. Gareth, do you want to pose your question?
Thanks very much, Percy. It was really good to hear from you. So I'm at Stellenbosch University and in the chemistry department. And so my question is to use kind of like, to what extent do you think that having studied chemistry was actually important for you moving into this area? Well, I know it was, I listened to the story, it kind of you fell into it, but to what extent would you say to people that actually having a grounding in chemistry is important?
Okay. I always refer to chemistry as the mother of all sciences. You cannot have biology without chemistry. You cannot have physics without chemistry, or the physicists or the biologists will argue otherwise. But but that's my view. When I was studying chemistry, I used to enjoy the fact that all of it is based on sets of rules, like when you're talking about physical chemistry, your delta H's and all those kinds of things. And when you do the bane of my existence, organic chemistry, pushing and pulling.
No, you can't say that.
Pushing and pulling arrows was the worst thing in my life.
No, I understand.
Imagining all those lone pairs and all of that and all of that. Studying chemistry, I think, was a very good foundation for my accidental venture into the beauty industry, because it's an entire industry wholly based on molecules and using them to get textures, to get aesthetics, to get feels, and all of that, making all that knowledge applied. Any of my students in the Coschem course will tell you I am big on applied knowledge, and having chemistry as a base is quite strong in that it finds broad application in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find more fascinating was when I then did the jump to become more of a corporate person, because I always tell people that I'm a scientist who hasn't been in a lab in over a decade. When I made the jump to being more of a corporate person, what I discovered is that it is far important, because the business types, the legal types are the ones that actually make the decisions. So they don't actually need a scientist who's going to give them all the what we'd like to call the technical spiel.
Mm-hmm.
They want someone who is going to give science a human face, to say, as a business, if we're applying this knowledge that we have acquired, these are the end results that we're going to get. These are the end results that our consumers are going to get, and this is what might actually result in a product or a launch, or bringing profitability to the business, etc., etc. Making those linkages is very important, and I feel nowadays there's an expectation or an added pressure for chemists, for physicists, for biologists to become even business people, to become regulatory people, to become legal people, to actually know that. Because if I look at myself when I was at STK, we were a very small company at the time. And as a quality person, it falls on you that you will have to have some knowledge on regulations. You'll have to have some knowledge on formulas and how they work. So having that chemistry base is an important stepping stone, or I would call it a cornerstone in building your foundation as ultimately a cosmetic scientist and whatever else you grow up to become. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, thanks. I do like the pun that of building on the foundation, particularly from the cosmetics industry. No, thanks very much. It was fantastic, Percy. I'm going to actually have to leave because I've got to go and teach organic chemistry to some first years. But thank you so much for that answer.
Those poor kids.
Oh, they're okay. They're okay. Cheers.
Okay, Percy, then I see in the chat that there are a few questions around, if somebody has a certain background like financial accounting or a research pharmacist, and then how do they get into the cosmetic industry? So I'm not sure if that is something that you can maybe comment on. I just also want to quickly ask you if you are, Bridget, did we check whether Percy, are you okay for us to share your email address with the audience?
No, we didn't check that. I think they can divert through the office.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can field it that way.
I would
Yeah.
be happy. I would be happy if Bridget managed
Sure.
the inquiries. And then in terms of entering the industry, in my teaching years with Coschem, I've seen people from various backgrounds do the course, having zero science experience, but because they are dedicated and they are willing to learn and they are willing to get stuck in, they thrive. Some people have actually come from the financial industry, done the course, and they've started their own companies, cosmetic companies, in fact. So your background is not a limitation. It's a stepping stone. Like I said, no perceived limitation is a limitation. You can look at it as an opportunity. The fact that you are coming into the industry with a fresh set of eyes means that for us who've been in it, we won't see some of the things that you might see. We won't see some of the opportunities that you might see. So it can actually be an advantage to come from a completely non-scientific, non-cosmetic background and come into this industry and literally shake it up and be that disruptor or that thought leader to say, no, I actually think this should work this way. And then you show us the way.
Yeah, I agree with you, Percy. I think, a lot of times it's where your passion lies.
Yeah.
Most of the people in the industry and the Coschem members all have BScs, they're from a scientific background, but we have had a number of entrepreneurs that have run through the course, as you say, people with financial backgrounds, but it really has, particularly people are paying for the training themselves. They have really put in the extra hours and the knowledge. I mean, obviously chemistry is the basis of the training, but, it really does take you to a different level. So I think contact the Coschem office. We always can have a chat. There is the website. We've got conferences, trainings. I think, again, like what Percy was saying, a lot of it ties into your networking, which is where Coschem also comes into on the platform. I mean, Percy, you also didn't even mention you're now presenting at the conference, which we're hosting in the middle of September. There's many avenues and many ways to connect with people. So, reach out to the society. Sorry, Marcel, taking over there.
No, not at all. I see that there's still one hand up. Maybe we can take a last question. We've got about 2 minutes. It's Joel.
It's Joel. Good morning from Ghana. Percy, that's a very prolific presentation. I can kind of identify with a lot of the things that you talked about. My question is, looking at the fast pace of the cosmetics industry, the fact that very few people get to stay in one discipline, transition from maybe production or from QA, regulatory, find yourself maybe in another research role. How do you combine the fast pace with balancing your personal life such that your personal life doesn't suffer? That's my brief question. Thanks.
Thanks, Joel. I'm asking myself, do any of us who work have any personal life? But I think I think it all depends on you. Um, there's an idiom that, once you find your groove, once you find what you're passionate about, once you find what you love doing, it ceases to become work. It becomes a part of you. It becomes, an integral part of who you are. I think for me that happened when I discovered regulatory affairs. That there actually is a discipline like this where you can look at the rules and then you can get to tell people what to do. um, at L'Oreal they like calling me Mr. No, but I'm not a Mr. No. What I'm doing is to enable them to keep their products on shelves, to make sure that they keep selling, to make sure that they're communicating the correct things to the consumer, and to make sure that we're in line with regulations. I'm very passionate about that. I'm very passionate about compliance, but I'm also passionate about other things. Like I've shared with you guys, I like traveling. I like collecting liquor. I like horticulture. I like cooking. I like all those kinds of things. So you yourself define the balance to say, okay, when I leave work at 5 or at 6 or at 7, do I get home? Do I open my laptop? If there's a need for me to do it, I will do it, because all of us do have to sacrifice sometimes. But more often than not, I try not to, because I want to have a balanced social life where I get home, I put my feet up, I relax, because that's also important to relax and come back the following morning regenerated, rejuvenated, so that you can also deliver your best work. So the responsibility ultimately falls on you to define your parameters and your boundaries, in terms of where work starts and work ends, and then where your personal life starts and where it ends as well. There always has to be a balance. I just saw an interview on a podcast that I follow called Diary of a CEO, where one lady was saying that work-life balance is a fallacy. It doesn't exist. After I listened to her, I realized what she actually meant. What's more important is for you defining what balance is. For you. For some people, residing in their work is a perfect balance, and for others, defining where work starts and ends and where their private life starts and ends is their balance. So the most important thing, I think, for me is for you to define and find your own balance, and what makes you happy and keeps you stable.
That's a nice submission. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Percy. I think with that, we've come to the end of today's session. We just really want to thank you also for your willingness to share your journey with us today. And then, yeah, we really appreciated it. There's many comments in the chat box also on how people are inspired today. Just, hearing how your journey followed and where you are in your career at the moment. It's been very inspirational. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening. Cheers. Have a good day further.
Thanks, Percy. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.